the Honorable Minister of Solid Minerals to please come to the podium to address the people of Kaduna State.
The Minister of Solid Minerals, Kayode Fayemi, discloses his focus on the mining sector and how important it is to diversify in this regard, pointing at the potentials the country has in mining, which he claims has not been taken seriously for years.
I refuse to.
Mr. Fayemi says about 5 million people are currently engaged in informal mining activities in the country, which makes it viable in terms of job creation.
Enhancing the geosciences in the sector.
While announcing that the government plans to provide a strategic mining fund to encourage genuine miners in the country.
Everybody tells you that Nigeria is endowed, and yes, we know we're endowed. But we don't often know the extent of that endowment, the quantity, the quality, the commercial viability of our endowments. The government in the past has put up an aerial geomap that gives indicative sense of what is where. We know for a fact that we have gold in abundance in Kaduna State. But we still need to do more exploration, and in partnership with the state government, we've started a process of doing that exploration in Kaduna State to guarantee for us what it is exactly we have, and then put it to use for the benefit of the people. So that is one of the very first approaches the government is taking, enhancing the geosciences in the sector. Two, we are very conscious of the fact that mining is a capital-intensive business. And it's not something that you can just walk up the street and do without finance. So working with the central bank and the various commercial banks, and the Bank of Industry particularly, we are developing an intervention fund for those who are working in mining and who are serious about mining, in order to be able to organize themselves and develop whatever area they have obtained licenses for and establish precisely what they have with support. Because this is one area that has been significantly lacking in Nigeria. Our surrounding countries, our neighboring countries, they spend much more on exploration than we spend. A country like Burkina Faso spend averagely $150 million on exploration annually. In 2015, Nigeria spent less than $300,000 on exploration. So we need to tackle that, but we need to tackle it with support from government.
To please come forward and speak to the people of Kaduna State.
Minister of Interior, Abdurrahman Dambazau, makes a shocking revelation regarding the affairs of the prisons. He says 70% of 57,000 inmates are awaiting trial and would have to be fed with 14,000 naira daily. This disclosure is coming at a time the country is grappling with the challenges of porous borders.
Quite a number of them are there for several years because they simply could not pay fines, small amount of money. So this is why we are partnering with states to ensure that we decongest the prisons. In addition to the fact that some of them, do not get fair justice, we are spending heavy amount of money yearly to feed them. And as of today, we require 10 billion naira to feed prisoners every year. And that is unacceptable. And this is why we came up with the idea that we have prison assets in terms of farms. Most of you know about prison farms. We need to revive those farms. We have also option of privatizing prisons because we cannot really sustain this. And we have over 400 prison assets which are not utilized at all. So part of the plan is to go back to that.
According to the Interior Minister, the federal government has concluded plans to adopt the use of biometrics to enhance border security in the country.
Most of our internal security challenges emanate from cross-border illegal activities, transnational crimes, in which quite a huge amount of arms and ammunition are smuggled into the country. Drugs are smuggled in the country. I read a report that almost every household between Kaduna State and Kano State has a drug addict. These are some of the challenges we are facing. So we need to tighten up our border security. And for that, we're introducing biometrics at every entry point. We are also discussing with our immediate neighbors. That was why I visited Cameroon and Benin Republic of recent, to discuss with my counterparts of the interior. And very soon I'm going to visit Niger and Chad. But outside our immediate neighbors, we also have strategic neighbors, which we are discussing with, such as UK, the EU countries. Those are strategic neighbors. The dividing line between us and Europe is the Mediterranean. And we know that a lot of human trafficking activities are going on within that area. So we are partnering with them to deal with these issues.
On the new security challenge posed by armed Fulani herdsmen, General Dambazao states that it's a long-standing history, noting that various stakeholders are being met to tackle the menace, which he says is not limited to Nigeria.
Barrister Rahim Adebayo Shitu.
Adebayo Shitu is the Minister of Communications, a ministry established in 2011 with 5 agencies comprising the National Communications Commission, NCC, NITDA, NICOMSAT, Galaxy Backbone, and the NIPOST.
Your Excellency, the Deputy Governor.
Perhaps, going by the strategies and plans adopted for NIPOST, rural dwellers especially may have been programmed to fit into government's scheme of things.
What we're trying to do is now to use the NIPOST as a diversified conglomerate. We're trying to introduce not only the sustenance of writing letters and selling stamps. We are also trying to now create what will be called NIPOST Bank to allow for rural inclusiveness in financial services. So that if you have your parents in the rural area where there's a post office but where there's no bank, you can go to the post office, send money to them, pay money into that, and in real time, the money is being received in your rural village. That's one of the things we are trying to do.
But before we commence this question and answer...
It's not all about the government functionaries, but the people. And so, there's time for question and answer as it affects the generality of the people. The relevant ministers are made to respond to issues bordering on the frequent unrest, police reforms, security, and the long-abandoned Petroleum Institute in Kaduna State, amongst others.
With regards to the coal city, we're working with the Ministry of Power and Works to ensure that we site generating companies nearer the coal deposits so that we can have this coal put to much more effective use. Because many companies are discovering that it's cheaper to use coal to power their activities, and it can also be clean coal technology, and that's clearly something that we're working on. But the critical point to make in relation to the North, with regards to your question, are twofold, sir. One, what we have discovered is that 70% of the proven high-grade metallic ores that exist in the country exist in the northern part. And the investors can really do more in focusing on exploiting these minerals. Because really, mining is to the north what oil is to the south, particularly the Delta. And we need to find a mechanism to ensure that we turn these opportunities that are available into actual investment for the host communities and for the states that are involved in this.
We are aiming at the police that is effective and efficient, and the police that will operate within the rule of law. There have been several attempts in the past on police reforms. So we don't want to reinvent the wheel. We want to capitalize on those attempts, look at what have been done in the past. And this is why I mentioned that as at now, we have a committee that is looking into that. And the issues are, the argument are based on what kind of policing style do we want or structure. Some have argued leaving a highly centralized police as it is today. Others have argued on state policing. We are also issue of community policing, which the current IG is pursuing. So these are issues, that has to do with the reforms itself.
Now, for the Petroleum Institute, I intend to visit the site whilst I'm here after today. But let me say that we have created a department which is called a skilled learning department. And that skilled learning department is refurbishing, taking over and creating specialization centers all over the country. Kaduna is one of those, Warri is another, and Lagos is another. So there is somebody who's been hired with a PhD in skilled learning efforts, who is, first of all, setting up these centers, who want to train and retrain NMPC staff to begin with, so that we realize the sort of direction we're going. But to then hire some of the skilled HND type graduates with very specific skill sets and take them through a 2-year program in the center with a proper faculty to position them for hiring in the oil sector. And then thirdly, to help a lot of West African countries that are now beginning to get into the petroleum business, but hitherto had largely relied informally on Nigeria and the oil companies to provide the resource training that they need to help them develop in that area. So these centers will provide that. I know that the Kaduna Center is programmed to do these skill areas of refining, skill areas of solar energy, and quite a few. So that is work in process.
The federal government's town hall meeting train moves to another region yet to be disclosed.